For the admission of this, permission to publish, Your Honor.
It is in evidence,
Thank
so you can publish it.
Mr. Depp, on February 4th, 2014, you tell Mr. Whitkin, Amber and I hit the wall hard. You see that?
I do, sir.
And that's the same phrase that you used in your text to Mr. Carino from 2016 that we just read, correct?
They are similar words, but they have different meanings. If,
Can we
I
pull
don't know if
up
that makes sense to you, but
Exhibit 498, please? Mr. Depp, is this a text exchange that you had with Ms. Hurd on or about October 28th, 2015?
yes, sir.
And I'd like to direct your attention to the third text down.
Yes.
Your Honor, I'd move for the admission of Defendant's Exhibit 498 with identifiers redacted.
Any objection?
Relevance, Your Honor.
All right,
May we approach?
okay, sure.
Can you pull up Exhibit 330, please? Mr. Depp, I'd like to turn your attention to the middle text on this page, which is a text from you to someone named Ryan A. On January 12th, 2015. Do you see that?
January. I'm sorry, the second one from the last.
Yes.
January 12th?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Is that Ryan Adams, the singer?
Yes, it is.
Your Honor, move for admission of Defendant's Exhibit 330. Just plan on asking him about that text.
Objection, relevance, Your Honor.
Your Honor, I'm happy to approach if you want.
Okay.
Can you pull up Exhibit 620, please? Mr. Depp, I'd like to turn your attention to text number 40.
Okay.
It's the third one down.
Yes,
This is a text from you to Malcolm Connolly. Is that right?
that's correct.
Your Honor, I'd move for admission of this document with the third text down.
If I just,
Sure.
And I'm happy to approach to discuss if Your Honor would like.
relevance objection again, Your Honor.
Okay, you want to approach? Redacted.
Mr. Ottenborn, if that's coming in, we'd allow, the contextual text messages as well, if we might take a look, please.
I'm sorry.
We would like to take a look and just make sure the contextual text messages are coming in with the one that you're directing Mr. Depp to.
I'm just going to address the court. That was the text message that I would like to get in. If they're, I'm not sure what she's asking, Your Honor.
We'll just go forward with that text message for now. Okay.
Mr. Depp, do you remember last week the jury saw the video of you, as you called it, assaulting the cupboards in that kitchen on Sweetser Avenue?
Yes, sir, very well said.
And that was on or about February 10th, 2016, correct?
Objection calls for speculation.
I'll allow it if you can answer.
I don't know when that's from. I have asked for the metadata, I've asked for the date and received nothing.
Okay. This text you sent on February 10th, 2016 to Malcolm Connolly. Malcolm Connolly is one of your security guards, correct?
Yes, he is.
And in this text, you say, "Thanks, dear Mal. I'm just at the point where I feel like I'm going to puke all the time. Once I get this shit moving and get myself out of her level of shit, I will never mention this cunt's name again, ever again. And the first prick that asks about her gets a warning. Should the single-cell prick decide to push it, he never forgets me and will always be remembered throughout his life as the guy that got his fucking nose bit off, chewed up, and swallowed by Johnny Depp. While I do have some civilized bones in my body, just on a matter of principle, I must force him to watch me fulfill this promise of mangling his motherfucker of a beezer. Love you, X." Did I read that right?
You did.
I'd like to turn to your views on Ms. Heard's career. Can you please pull up Exhibit 195? I'd like to direct your attention to the second to last text from the bottom. This is a text message exchange between you and Miss Heard on October 29th, 2013, correct?
It looks like it is, yes.
Your Honor, I'd move for the admission of Defendant's Exhibit 195 with the appropriate identifiers redacted.
We would object on relevance grounds, Your Honor.
Your Honor, this is him expressing his views on her taking a meeting about a movie, her career, his views.
So 195 will be in evidence with, redacted with the identifiers.
Mr. Depp, you see the text that from Amber that says, "I'm at a coffee meeting now." You see that?
I do, sir.
Right there. So she tells you at 12:41 p.m., "I'm at a coffee meeting now, we'll be home soon." And then you respond, "Holy crack whores, no goddamn meetings, no movies. Why? Why do you deviate from our agreement? What species of meeting? Fuck it, just tell me when you get home." Did I read that right?
You did, but a coffee meeting.
You didn't want her to take the meeting that she was taking that day, correct?
It seems as though we had an agreement, what seems like we had an agreement to do something together. I'm actually asking what species of meeting. So this is not necessarily an angry text. It's just, why do you deviate from our agreement? It's not about her doing films. How do you think she got Aquaman, sir?
You tell her no goddamn meetings, no movies, because you didn't want her acting. You wanted to control her career, correct?
Objection, compound.
That's
Hold
patently
on,
untrue, and it's a
Mr.
great
Depp,
guess.
sir. All right, yes, I'll sustain the objection. Next question.
Sorry.
We can move on. Exhibit 394, please. Defendant's exhibit.
Thank you.
Mr. Depp, if you can take a look at the fourth text down. This is a text from you to Dr. Kipper on, it's in the timestamp issue. I believe it was sent on March 8th, 2015 in Australia, timestamped March 7th, 2015. Do you see that?
I do, sir.
Your Honor, I'd move for the admission of 394.
No objection with the proper redactions of the rest of the text messages and the identifiers.
Okay.
Thank you, Your Honor.
394 in evidence with redactions.
Permission to publish?
All right, yes, yes, sir.
Mr. Depp, on this date, right after you had suffered an injury to your finger, you text Dr. Kipper and you say, "Hi, fucked, man. Had another one. I just cannot live like this. She is as full of shit as a Christmas goose. I'm done. No more. The constant insults, the demeaning, belittling, most heartbreaking spew that is only released from a malicious, evil, and vindictive cunt. But you know what? Far more hurtful than her venomous and degrading, endless educational ranting is her hideously and purposely hurtful tirades and her goddamn shocking treatment of the man she was meant to love, above all. Here's the real deal, mate. Her obsession with herself is far more important. She is so fucking ambitious. She's so desperate for success and fame. That's probably why I was acquired, mate. Although she has hammered me with what a sad old man has been I am, Cowan has done me the most cruel of favors. I'm so very sad. I cut the top of my middle finger off. What should I do? Except, of course, go to a hospital. I'm so embarrassed for jumping into anything with her. Fuck the world." Did I read that right?
Yes, Mr. Rottenborn.
So even as you are ranting about Miss Heard to Dr. Kipper, even as you were talking about her ambition and expressing your objections to that, you still admit to him that you cut the top of your middle finger off, correct?
Objection compound.
Sustain as compound.
You're complaining about her ambition in this text to her, to Dr. Kipper, correct?
I'm realizing that her ambition is far stronger than her supposed feelings for me, yes.
And there's nothing about this text that's trying to protect her.
Protect her? From what?
And you tell Dr. Kipper, "I cut the top of my middle finger off" in this text, correct?
It's just the way it was worded. It doesn't mean that I actually literally cut my finger off after, at the age of 12, finding the only thing that gave me peace, which is playing the guitar. Very unlikely. Why didn't I start lopping off digits when I was 13 then?
Just the way it was worded. Now, Miss Heard wasn't the only one who had a problem with you can take that down. Miss Heard wasn't the only one who had a problem with your drinking and abuse of alcohol, correct?
Objection compound.
All right, I'll sustain the objection if you want.
Miss Heard wasn't the only one who had a problem with your drinking, correct?
Sir, if anyone had a problem with my drinking at any time in my life, it was me. The only person that I have ever abused in my life is myself.
In fact, you tried to hide your drinking from your daughter, Lily Rose, didn't you?
Objection relevance.
What's the relevance?
When your nerves are pushed...
Sir, if you
Can we approach, Your Honor?
Okay.
Pardon.
Can you pull up Exhibit 207, please? Can you scroll down, please? Thank you. Mr. Depp, I'd like to direct your attention to the last text on this page. It's a text from you to Kevin Murphy. He was your estate manager, correct?
He was.
This is a text from you to Kevin Murphy on January 21st, 2014, correct?
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, I'd move for the admission of that portion of Defendant's Exhibit 207 with redactions.
With the identifiers redacted, that's fine, thank you.
207?
Permission to publish?
Yes, sir.
And in this text to Kevin Murphy on January 21st, 2014, you say, just trying to get over my shocking discussion with Vanessa that lasted 5+ hours. Vanessa's your former partner, correct?
She's the mother of my children, yes.
The mother of your children, that's right. And then you say, I feel ill and have invested my guts into some side corner. Now, Lily Rose hates me because she thinks I'm drinking, and she's right. But I can't admit, or I fucking die in her eyes. Thanks for that one, Vanessa. Come to master in main house. Did I read that correctly?
You did, sir.
Can you pull up Exhibit 1092, please? Mr. Depp, is this a picture of you passed out in a chair during daylight hours?
Again, isn't passed out, that's a very specific term. Sleep could be one, passed out.
Let's try it this way. This is a picture of you in a chair, correct?
That is correct.
Move for the admission of 1092, Your Honor.
Any objection?
Relevance, Your Honor?
Your Honor, I'm trying to move this along, and when we stop with relevance,
Well, you want to lay a foundation, I just don't.
this is a picture of Mr. Depp. We've introduced another, on Thursday, another picture of that.
What is the date of this photograph? I'm sorry.
Can you take that down and put up Exhibit 470, Michelle, please? Mr. Depp, is the bottom text on this page a text exchange or a text message from you to your personal assistant, Stephen Duders, on September 3rd, 2015?
That's what it looks like, yes, sir.
Your Honor, I'd move for the admission of this exhibit with just that text and the appropriate redactions. Exhibit 470.
Again, of relevance, Your Honor. And cumulative.
I'll allow this one if we just.
Thank you, Your Honor.
With redactions.
Permission to publish, Your Honor?
All right, yes, sir.
Thank you. Mr. Depp, in the effort to move this along, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I'm going to start with the word main bits, which is 5 lines down. You write to Mr. Deuters on September 3rd, 2015, main bits needed are Xanax and Adderall, and I want no judgment from Kipper or Debbie. Kipper means Dr. David Kipper, correct?
That's correct.
And Debbie means Debbie Lloyd, your sobriety nurse, correct?
That is correct.
Just found out from Joel last night how much I spent on having Kipper and Debbie around. Millions and fucking millions, mate. All the while, Debbie just hung around Broad, BCH, and gave me new meds like every 2 weeks. She was on set maybe 4 times. Wow. Then 5 money symbols. Sorry, just how it is. Did I read that right?
You did?
Can we pull up Exhibit 587, please? This is a recording, Your Honor.
And I already have 5787A, so this is 587B.
587B, Your Honor. The excerpts to be played are 1940 through 1953 and 2304 through 2329.
Any objection?
No objection, Your Honor.
All right. 587B in evidence.
In that clip, Mr. Depp, you tell Ms. Heard, I'm never getting clean and sober, correct?
It sounds like, to me, that, yeah, it's either that or I have never been clean and sober.
Thank
It's one
you.
of the
Let's
two.
play 2304, please.
In the big picture, the big scheme of things, it does nothing but hurt us. And why? Because the coke and booze doesn't make it easier for you to see how clearly that is.
You gotta stop with the coke and booze.
All the coke
'cause you're wrong.
all the coke you've done today and all the booze you've drank today.
By the way,
Has it helped you?
I
Has it helped us?
just got the coke
Has it helped us?
today.
Yeah, I know because yesterday you were 1,000 times better. Yesterday did we?
I'd like to turn now to a few more of your words around the time that you went into detox, about how you viewed Amber's role in that process, Mr. Depp. Can you please pull up Plaintiff's Exhibit 120_40? And Your Honor, 120_41 was admitted the other day, but I'd like to introduce this as a separate exhibit.
So 120B, and that would be _40, you said, 40?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Any objection to that?
If I may, it just came up on the screen.
Okay.
Mr. Depp, while they're looking at that, is the second text from the bottom a text that you sent to Amber's mom, Paige, on August 19th, 2014?
Yes, that's correct, sir.
And this is when you were either in the middle of or finishing up your detox process from roxycodone, correct?
That is correct.
All right. And no objection?
No objection.
Okay. 120B in evidence. You want to publish? Or, as is, correct?
With the other
Okay,
That's fine.
text messages redacted,
All
please.
right.
Thank you.
Oh, with the, okay, yep, sure.
okay, to publish.
And in this text message that you write Amber's mom on August 19th, 2014, you say, "My dearest Paige, how unbelievably kind and pure your message was. I am beyond thankful to have you in my life. There is no luckier man on this earth to have the strength that Amber gives me and the full support of each of you individually that I've gotten helps immeasurably. I don't need to explain the horrors to you. You know as well as I. What you do need to know that your daughter has risen far above the nightmarish task of taking care of this poor old junkie. Never a second has gone by that she didn't look out for me or have her eyes on me to make sure that I was okay. YN words are truly feeble in attempting to explain her heroism in a text. Suffice to say that I have never met or loved a woman or a thing more. She has the strength of 1,000 men, and that is due to no one or nothing but you, sweetheart. Thank you. I love you. Your son, Outlaw." Did I read that correctly?
You did, sir.
I'd like to take a look at another document, Exhibit 272, please. Is this a text message that you shared, a text message exchange between you and Amber the following day on April 20th, 2014?
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, permission to, or I'd move for the admission of Exhibit 272 and ask for permission to publish.
With the identifiers removed, we have no objection.
All right, remove the identifiers. All right, 272 in evidence as redacted.
Now, Mr. Depp, you testified on Thursday that you saw nothing wrong with referring to Amber as a lesbian camp counselor when she was trying to get you to stop using drugs. But let's take a look at what you say in this text.
She had used that term before.
In this text, Mr. Depp, you say, "Just to let you know that I'm fine, my angel. I miss you, of course, but this was the right thing to do to speed up the process. I love you more than life. Yours, Steve." Did I read that correctly?
You did.
You can take that down. Now, you've brought this lawsuit about the op-ed specifically, but for years prior to the date that Ms. Heard wrote the op-ed, there were numerous negative news stories about you. You'd agree with that, correct?
Objection, compound.
All right, I'll sustain it to compound.
For years prior to 2018, when Amber wrote the op-ed, there were numerous negative news stories about you that were released into the public, correct?
Objection calls for speculation.
I'll allow it if you can answer.
By 2018, you're saying?
Correct.
Yes, it all started with Ms. Heard going directly to a court to get a TRO, which is with a bruise on her face and paparazzi. That was the sort of beginning of the ball rolling down the hill and gaining momentum.
There were lots of
And
negative
destroying
stories
me.
about you prior to May 27, 2016, when Amber went into court, correct?
Objection asked and answered.
Now it's 2016. I'll allow it if you can
There are plenty of negative stories about you prior to that date, weren't there?
Sir, I've been in the racket of Hollywood since 1984.
Mr. Depp, I'm asking you a yes or no question. There were plenty of negative news stories about you prior to May 27th, 2016, correct?
From 1984 up until then, they're both. So, of course, people write negative stories.
Sure. And you just testified to the jury that it all started on May 27th, 2016. So that's why I asked you to clarify about the negative stories prior to that date. And you'd agree that there were, correct?
Can you be specific about the stories? Of course, there have
Sure.
been negative stories.
Permission to approach, Your Honor?
All right.
Your Honor, I have here numerous exhibits in one sort of compendium, all press articles about Mr. Depp, if I may approach.
All right, yes, sir.
Thank you so much.
Your Honor, having received this, I would like to preemptively lodge a hearsay, lack of foundation, and
He hasn't got him in evidence yet. Are you moving
No,
these to
I'm
evidence?
happy to approach, but they're certainly not being admitted for the truth of the matter asserted, but I'm happy to approach and
Okay,
discuss if you'd
well,
like. Mr. Depp, if you could please take a look at the stack of articles in front of you.
Yes, it's a stack of hit
Yes,
pieces
the first one is
generated
called
by
the,
Ms. Heard's
just-
publicity team.
Mr. Depp, we're going to try to get through this as quickly as possible.
I'm just
I'm going to ask you
stating what
about
they
the
are,
first
sir.
one. Well, we're going to talk about them. The first one is entitled, is from The Guardian. Do you see that?
Apparently drunk.
Yes, and this is an article from November 15th, 2014, entitled, Apparently Drunk Johnny Depp Cut Off at Hollywood Film Awards Ceremony, correct?
That's what it says, yes, sir.
And the next article is an article from May 7th, 2016. It's entitled, Johnny Depp, Friends and Family Seriously Concerned About Him. Here's Why.
Yes.
Correct.
How did they know?
The next article from May 1st, 2017, before Ms. Heard filed for a restraining order, a year and a half before she published, no, sorry, this would be after, May 1st, 2017. The headline is, Johnny Depp has a clear and epic sense of entitlement, ex-managers say. Published
Yes.
in the Hollywood Reporter, correct?
I was in a lawsuit with him, sir.
The next article from May 10th, 2017 is entitled, Johnny Depp, a star in crisis and the insane story of his missing millions. Did I read that right?
That's straight from the same lawsuit, sir.
The next article, also from May 10th, 2017, a year and a half before the op-ed was published, says, Johnny Depp reportedly drank heavily and was constantly late on the new Pirates movie set. Did I read that right?
You did, reportedly.
The next
These are
article,
all hit
also
pieces.
from May
These
10th,
are dregs,
2017.
sir.
Mr.
This
Depp,
is a pathetic attempt.
Mr. Depp, please just respond to the question that I'm asking you.
What's your
The next
question,
question,
Mr. Rottenborn?
the next document, an article published in Vanity Fair on May 10th, 2017,
Yes.
is entitled, Johnny Depp's Financial Woes Might Sink the Next Pirates of the Caribbean. Did I read that right?
You did. I don't know
The
how
next
my
article,
financial woes would do
May
that.
25th, 2017, a year and a half before the op-ed was published. An article entitled, Where Did It All Go Wrong for Johnny Depp? After a string of flops and a ton of bad press, Johnny Depp's star power looks as wobbly as Jack Sparrow on a plank. Did I read that right?
You read that very, very well.
The next one, Hollywood Reporter, May 27th, 2017. Headline, Pirates of the Caribbean, The Diminishing Returns of Johnny Depp. Did I read that right?
You certainly did. Hollywood Reporter were very nice to me at the time.
July 12th, 2017. Why are all of Johnny Depp's movies bombing at the box office? Did I read that right?
You certainly did.
November 4th, 2017. A year and a month before Amber published the op-ed. Headline, Johnny Depp allegedly showed up drunk to movie premiere, reports say. Did I read that
Allegedly,
correctly?
reports say. This is hearsay. is
June
it not?
21st,
Your
2018,
favorite word?
6 months before the op-ed was published. Vanity Fair article, The Real Reason Johnny Depp Used an Earpiece on a Film Set.
I think that was
I
explained
read
in
that
court
correctly?
the other day. Oh, you did, yeah.
June 21st, 2018, 6 months before the op-ed was published. A Rolling Stone article entitled, The Trouble with Johnny Depp. Multi-million-dollar lawsuits, a haze of booze and hash, a marriage gone very wrong, and a lifestyle he can't afford inside the trials of Johnny Depp. Did I read that right?
You did. You should read the article. It's
And the
wonderful.
last one, June 22nd, 2018, the Daily Mail, vodka for breakfast, 72-hour drug binges, and spending sprees that beggar belief. Alison Boshoff reveals why Hollywood's reeling over what's being called Johnny Depp's career suicide note. Did I read that correctly?
You did. Who's Alison Boshoff and how does she know?
Mr. Depp, you can't name
Oh, it
a
won't
single
answer that, I see.
actress who has benefited in her career by coming forward and stating that she was the victim of domestic violence, can you?
I'm sorry, what was
Objection
that?
calls for speculation.
I'll sustain the objection. Next question.
When Amber made abuse accusations against you in May 2016, fair to say it got a lot of press attention, right?
Objection calls for speculation.
All right, I'll sustain the objection. Next question.
When Amber made abuse accusations against you in May 2016, you became aware that it got a lot of press attention, correct?
Very quickly, I became aware.
And she became associated with those abuse accusations that she made against you in May 2016, correct, to your knowledge?
Objection calls for speculation.
I'll sustain the objection. Next question.
You became associated with those domestic abuse accusations that she made against you, correct?
I think that's clear.
And
yes.
you understood that she became associated with those same accusations that she made, correct? You've testified to that.
Well, she had a choice, I didn't.
And you've talked about the immediate impact that those accusations on May 27th, 2016 allegedly had on your career, correct?
Yes.
You testified earlier in your examination on direct that when Amber made those accusations in 2016, you said you lost, quote, nothing less than everything, correct?
That is correct, sir.
But you didn't try to get the restraining order lifted in 2016, did you?
I don't... If she wanted a restraining
It's a yes
order...
or no question. You didn't try to get the restraining order
No, why
lifted,
would
did you?
I?
And you didn't have a divorce trial where you could respond to Amber's accusations of abuse in 2016, did you?
Objection calls for a legal conclusion.
I'm asking him if he had a trial. That's
All
a
right,
fact.
I'll allow-
You didn't have a divorce trial where you could respond to Amber's accusations of abuse, did you?
No, there were no charges pressed against
You
me.
chose
She didn't
not
tell
to-
the police that I had done anything. She didn't mention my name.
And you didn't have a California divorce judge decide these facts, did you?
Objection asked and answered.
I'll
You
sustain the
chose,
objection.
you
Next
chose not to try to clear your name at that time through any sort of legal proceeding, correct?
Objection asked and answered.
I'll sustain the objection. Next question.
And you chose to sign a divorce agreement in which you stated that Amber had not made any false statements about you for financial gain. We looked at that, correct?
Objection asked and answered.
Asked and answered. I'll sustain the objection. Next
In
question.
fact, you waited until Amber wrote the op-ed in the Washington Post in December of 2018 to file a lawsuit against her, correct?
That is correct.
Can you pull up Plaintiff's Exhibit 2, please?
It was the only time that I
Permission
was
to
able
publish,
to
Your Honor?
speak and use my own voice.
You chose not to sue the Washington Post in this lawsuit, correct?
Exhibit 2 is an evidence.
Objection relevance asked and answered.
It's not been asked and answered.
Hasn't been asked and answered, but I'm not sure what the relevance is.
You chose to sue only Ms. Heard and not the newspaper that published this article, correct?
Objection compound.
All right, I'll sustain as to compound.
You chose not to sue the Washington Post, correct?
Objection relevance.
I'll sustain the objection.
You only sued the author of this article, Amber Heard, correct?
Which seems she was the one making the statements. Yes, I had the opportunity to fight back.
Permission to publish Exhibit 2, Your Honor.
All right, Exhibit 2 is already in evidence, so we'll publish.
Mr. Depp, you realize that the only job for this jury to decide,
Yes, sir.
its only job, is to determine whether this op-ed and this op-ed alone is defamatory.
Objection calls for a legal conclusion.
I'll sustain the objection.
This is the only writing that that's the subject of this lawsuit that you brought, correct?
Same objection.
It's facts, Your Honor. He's the
I'll
one who brought the
allow
lawsuit.
that question. I'll allow that question.
This is a version of that story of the op-ed that I have never seen. The one that was published before, the only one I've ever seen is the one that was published prior to this. They changed the title because they were in fear of trouble.
Well, I'd move to strike that last testimony, Your Honor.
Well, I mean, it's clear.
Whether it's the online edition or this edition in the paper, this article is the only statement, the only publication of anything that's the subject of the lawsuit that you brought, correct?
Objection asked and answered.
I'll sustain the objection.
This op-ed, Mr. Depp, does not discuss any of the details of your relationship that we've seen in texts and emails and recordings over the past few days, does it?
Objection compound and asked and answered.
I'll sustain both objections.
In fact, this article doesn't contain any details of your relationship with Ms. Heard.
Objection, asked and answered.
I'll sustain the
The
objection.
only thing that this article states, Mr. Depp, is that in 2016, Amber made accusations of domestic abuse. Correct.
It was clear that she'd made allegations in 2016.
And she
so
did that
by
when
then,
she
yes.
obtained a restraining order against you in 2016, correct?
Yeah, I suppose, yes. Yeah,
And even if you disagree with the accusations that she made against you in May 2016, it is a true fact that she did make those accusations in 2016 and got a restraining order against you, correct?
Objection, compound, asked and answered.
Sustain the objections. Next question.
To your knowledge, the words that Ms. Heard used in this article about getting a restraining order against you in 2016, those are true, correct?
I'm sorry?
Objection,
words that
it
Ms.
states
Heard
the
used-
document.
All right, I'll sustain the objection. If you want.
Can you go to the third paragraph? Pull up the third paragraph, please. The statement that then 2 years ago, Ms. Heard became a public figure representing domestic abuse, that is true, isn't it?
I'm not sure what we're looking at.
Because-
Objection,
Oh, I see it.
calls for a legal conclusion.
So I'll sustain the objection.
It's
I'll
his
sustain the objection.
And in 2016, for the first time publicly, Ms. Heard accused you of domestic abuse, correct?
In 2016?
Yes.
That's correct.
No further questions.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, why don't we go ahead and take our morning recess for 15 minutes? Do not do any outside research and do not talk to anybody about the case, okay? We'll come back in 15 minutes.
¿Qué tal, chavos? ¿Qué tal? Que nos están escuchando aquí en The Showbiz Live, en esta transmisión especial del caso de Johnny Depp y la señorita Amber Heard, que está en la corte de Virginia. Al parecer ahorita la corte está en un receso. No me di cuenta si es un receso de 15 o 30 minutos. Entonces vamos a continuar la transmisión en cuanto tengamos la señal nuevamente. Si nos pueden decir de dónde nos escuchan, aquí en el chat, en qué parte nos ven, en qué parte han estado siguiendo esta transmisión. ¿Qué tal amigos de Showbiz Live? Seguimos en esta transmisión en vivo desde Virginia, donde está el caso de la corte del trial de difamación de Johnny Depp y Amber Heard. Ese es el día número 8. Ha habido bastantes sorpresas, bastantes cosas que la gente no se esperaba. Y ahorita estamos en un receso. No sabemos cuánto va a durar. Estamos recibiendo la señal directamente de la corte. Y si nos quieren acompañar en el chat diciéndonos algunas preguntas o algún comentario, qué es lo que les parece esta transmisión, quizá podamos responder algunas de sus preguntas en el chat. Les recordamos que cada semana tenemos una transmisión en vivo todos los martes a partir de las 7 de la noche hora de Los Ángeles, 9 de la noche hora de México, Monterrey, donde pueden escucharnos cada semana. Hablamos de notas de tecnología, entretenimiento y cosas que suceden sobre gadgets, etcétera, etcétera. Cada semana tenemos un show, nos pueden acompañar los martes. También nos pueden escuchar y seguir en todas las redes sociales aquí en The Show is Live.
ready for the jury?
Estamos de regreso aquí en la corte. Ya terminó el receso. Seguimos en vivo en el día 8 del trial de difamación del caso de Johnny Depp y Amber Heard.
All right, you be seated and redirect.
Good afternoon, Mr. Depp.
Hi.
Could we please pull up Plaintiff's Exhibit 1? Mr. Depp, is this the version of the op-ed that you recognize?
Yes, ma'am, that's the one.
I would move Exhibit 1, Plaintiff's Exhibit 1 into evidence and ask that it be published to the jury.
Any objection? All right, 1 in evidence and publish.
Mr. Depp, when did you see Ms. Heard's December 18th, 2018 op-ed for the first time?
It was, presented to me by one of my team, I can't remember, but it was within a day or so of it, a couple of days of it having been written, I believe.
And what was your reaction when you saw it?
Shock.
Why were you shocked?
Because at that point, it had been a good solid two or so years of this, of the accusations, of the allegations, planted firmly on my back, so something that I had to carry with me. I just couldn't believe that it was continuing. That it was continuing in such a way that it was clear that the more bad press, the more hit pieces that came out on me, the more of these stories of Ms. Heard and her righteous chase against me. It wasn't stopping, and it's difficult to once you've chewed on it for a couple of years, it becomes pretty difficult to swallow anymore. As it was completely untrue.
How did you feel when you saw the op-ed for the first time?
Objection asked and answered just now.
My prior question was about his reaction.
All right, I'll allow it.
Hurts. Yeah, a blinding hurt. It was like somebody had hit me in the back of the head with a 2x4. And as I said, I had no ability to speak prior to, because even if I had done an interview to try to explain myself, it turned into a hit piece. So my mouth was shut. And this was the opportunity where I thought, something's got to be done. It's just got to be done. I couldn't take it anymore.
When did you first learn that Disney was not going to recast you in the Pirates franchise?
It was probably
¿Cuándo te
2 or
diste
3
cuenta
days
que
after
Disney no te iba a contratar
this
para la
op-ed
siguiente
appeared.
serie de Piratas del Caribe?
One of my crew, again, I don't remember who had sent me, excuse me, had sent me a piece that was in some magazine, and Sean Bailey, who was the number
Alguien del
3.
equipo me
Objection,
mandó
hearsay.
una copia de
I
una nota que
don't
salió en una
know yet.
revista.
I'll rule it at this point.
Thank you.
May I continue, Your Honor?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
¿Puedo continuar?
Sean Bailey, who was the
Sean Bailey,
the
¿quién fue?
third in line, as I suppose,
El tercero
in
en
the
la
upper
línea
echelon of Disney.
de la operación con Disney.
Just basically said in the
Objection, hearsay.
Básicamente dijo que
Your
What
Honor,
Sean Bailey
this
said.
is about him
It's in
learning
an
about this.
article.
It's not for the truth.
It is the truth. She's
If
asking.
you want to approach, that's hard.
Mr. Depp, could you please explain to the jury who Sean Bailey is? I think
Señor Depp,
we're
¿puede
starting
explicar
to.
al jurado
Yes,
quién es ese
I'll
señor
try
Bailey?
again.
Claro, lo intentaré de nuevo.
Sean Bailey is the number 3, or was at the time. I don't know what his
Sean Bailey
status
es
is
el
anymore,
nombre,
but
o fue el número
at the
3.
time he was the number 3
En ese momento
upper echelon of Disney top
era la
dogs.
persona
And
número 3 en operaciones en Disney.
Sean Bailey was quoted as saying that
Objection, hearsay.
Sean Bailey fue
Mr. Depp,
encontrado
where
que
was Sean
mencionó
Bailey
algo.
quoted,
Ok, sí.
without getting into what he was quoted as saying?
he was quoted in whatever the article was that that was brought to my attention.
Lo citaron de acuerdo
And can
con
you
un
please
artículo
just clarify what article you're
que
referring to?
fue
I don't know what journal it came from. I don't know what magazine. I don't
no sé de
know
qué periodista
any
llegó, no tengo idea de
of
qué
that, so
revista.
I don't know who did the interview
No
with him.
tengo idea de quién hizo la entrevista
Objection, lack of
que salió
foundation.
publicado.
I'll overrule the objection.
Es una
Mr. Depp, how did you feel when you learned that you were being dropped from the Pirates of the Caribbean
Señor
franchise?
Depp, ¿cómo se siente cuando se enteró que lo habían eliminado de el proyecto de Piratas del Caribe?
Well, it was the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise.
La franquicia de Piratas del Caribe
It was a character that
fue un personaje
Captain Jack Sparrow was a
que
character
el
that I
capitán
had
Jack Sparrow
built from the ground up,
fue creado desde el
and was something that
fue algo que
I of course put a lot of
por supuesto
as
puse
you do with all
mucho,
characters, but you put a lot of
esfuerzo,
yourself into
pones
the
mucho de ti mismo
character,
dentro de ese personaje
and also
y también
having worked on these
habiendo
films with these
trabajado en
people
esos
and
proyectos con esta gente de Disney,
having added much
haber
of
agregado
myself, much of my
mucho de
own
mi persona
rewriting of the dialogue and
y haber
scenes and the
reescrito los diálogos,
jokes and whatever they are.
bromas y todo lo que sucede.
I didn't quite understand
No entendí
how that after that long relationship and
no
quite a
entendí cómo
successful
después de esta relación
relationship, certainly for
satisfactoria
Disney,
con Disney,
that they would,
de que ellos,
that suddenly I was
de que de repente yo
guilty until
estaba
proven innocent.
culpable hasta que fuera aprobado.
Up until the point that you learned that you were
Hasta este punto que
not
se
going to
enteró
be
que ya no
in
iba a
the
participar
Pirates of the Caribbean
en los
franchise any
Piratas del
longer,
Caribe, en la
what was your
franquicia.
intention with respect to future Pirates movies?
¿Cuál fue tu intención respecto en un futuro de otros proyectos del Piratas
The
del Caribe?
last thing that I knew from
La última que supe de
I say there's the producer team, there's the creative
están los equipos de
team,
productores, creadores,
and there were
creadores,
many discussions.
y hubo muchas discusiones.
I, in fact,
De hecho,
had been approached to take part in writing
Objection,
Pirates
hearsay.
6.
me han invitado a participar en
Mr. Depp, what was
escribir.
your intention with respect to future Pirates movies?
Señor, ¿de
aside
cuál es
from
su
what you've been
intención
asked to do?
respecto a proyectos
My
futuros
feeling
de
was
Piratas del
that
Caribe?
These characters
Lo
should
que
be
siento
able
es que estos
to
personajes
have their
deberían de
proper
tener su
goodbye,
propio.
as it were. A franchise can only last for so long,
Una franquicia solo puede durar mucho tiempo.
and there's a way to end
Y hay una manera de
a
terminar.
franchise like that, and
Una
I thought
franquicia
that the
como esta.
characters deserved to have their
Que los
way out of
personajes
to
se
end
merezcan tener una salida.
the franchise on a very good note. I planned on continuing until it was time to stop.
Mr. Depp, last week, Mr. Rottenborn asked you about a quote where you said you wouldn't come back to the Pirates franchise for $300 million and a million alpacas. Do you
Señor, de
remember
la semana
that?
pasada
I do.
dijeron que usted
When-
no regresaría a la franquicia
When
de Piratas del
relative
Caribe, ni
to
siquiera
learning
que le
that
pagaran 300
you would no
millones de
longer
dólares.
be a part of the Pirates franchise, did you make that statement?
I think long before I made the statement, there was
Creo que después de que hice ese
a
comentario,
very deep and distinct sense of having been betrayed.
siento una
by
razón muy fuerte de que
the people that I
haya
had
sido traicionado
been working with, the people that I had worked
después de haber
hard for,
trabajado con esta gente
people
que
that I had
trabajé
delivered a
tantos
character
años.
to that they initially despised, but somehow, even I stuck to my guns with the character and it seemed to work. So
Después de que mucha gente no le gustó la manera en que yo trabajé este
Do you
personaje.
recall when specifically you made that statement about the $300 million and
¿Usted se
the 100
recuerda
alpacas?
exactamente cuando hizo ese comentario de que no ni por 300 millones recibiría para poder continuar en ese personaje?
I believe I made that statement during a press conference in
Creo que
the
hizo ese
San
comentario
Sebastian
durante
at the
una
San Sebastian Film Festival when
conferencia en el Festival de San Sebastián.
I was asked about
una conferencia de
my
prensa.
situation.
Me preguntaron
And
sobre
what year
esta
would that
situación.
have been, if you can recall?
I believe it
¿Y
was
en qué año
last
fue?
year or so.
Creo que fue el año pasado, más o menos.
Can we please pull up Plaintiff's Exhibit 804?
Podemos poner la exhibición número 4.
Mr. Depp, do you recognize this document?
Señor Deus, ¿se reconoce
As
este
soon as my
documento?
eyes go on, I hopefully will.
En cuanto me ponga mis lentes, lo podré comentar.
Scaramanga Brothers, yes. Pirates, 4 and 5, yes.
Sí, lo reconozco.
What is this document?
¿De qué se trata este documento?
I don't quite know. I'd have to read it to
No
get
tengo
some
idea, tengo que leerlo para poder
understanding of it.
Could we scroll
qué se
through
trata?
so Mr. Depp can look at the rest of this document?
Oops. Oop, there it goes. It looks, this appears to me to be some species of contract, no?
Al parecer esto parece que son piezas de un contrato.
Is this a contract that you entered into?
With
¿Es este
Disney.
un contrato en el que used
Your Honor,
participó?
I'd ask
Sí,
that
con Disney.
Plaintiff's Exhibit 804 be moved into evidence and published.
Any objection?
I think it's outside the scope of direct or cross-examination.
Creo que no tiene nada que ver
I'll
con lo
rule on
que
that objection.
estamos hablando.
And yeah, well, I'll reserve other objections to portions of the document, depending on what she's going to ask about. Could be hearsay.
But she's asking to put it all into evidence right now.
Well, then
Les
I
recordamos que
would
estamos viendo esta
object to that
transmisión
at
en
this
vivo
point.
del caso
Come forward.
de difamación de Johnny Depp y Amber Heard. Los abogados se están poniendo de acuerdo en la siguiente exhibit que están presentando. Nos pueden acompañar en el chat. Estamos aquí en vivo. Esta es la Corte de Virginia. Estamos recibiendo la señal directamente de la Corte. En este caso, nos pueden contar en el chat de dónde nos ven. ¿Qué les parece? Si ustedes creen que Johnny Depp es culpable de haber agredido e insultado físicamente a la señorita Amber Heard, como la pueden ver en la pantalla, en la parte izquierda superior, que esta demanda son más de 50 millones que Johnny Depp le puso a Amber Heard, y ella, a su vez, decidió demandar, hacer una contrademanda contra Johnny Depp por $100 millones.
If I can just get a redacted copy of that at some point. Okay, thank you.
No estamos recibiendo el audio nuevamente.
Mr. Depp, if I could direct your attention to Section 6 of the contract, which is on pages
Señor,
8 through 10 of the
señor Depp, podemos
document.
dirigir su atención a la sección número 6 de este contrato.
Mr. Depp, what does this reflect?
Señor Depp, ¿qué es lo que refleja esto?
Sorry. It appears to be the agreement
Esto parece ser el acuerdo,
Pirates 4 and
la
5,
parte número 4 y 5
compensation and
de la compensación
merchandise.
y las mercadencías.
Mr. Depp, at this time, how many
Mercancías.
other franchise films had you been a part of?
¿En qué otras franquicias, películas de franquicias ha sido usted
At
parte
that
de?
time, Alice in
En ese momento,
Wonderland,
Alice in Wonderland,
um,
Alicia en el País de las Maravillas,
Alice in Wonderland. I'm so pathetic when it comes to knowing what movies I've done. I'm sorry.
Soy bien
I just
patético
I don't
al referente
watch them.
a qué tipo de películas he hecho.
Feel better not watching them.
Me siento mejor no viendo esas películas.
I couldn't. I mean, what was the question again?
How many?
¿Puedes preguntar?
I
How
have
many
order in the
different-
court, or I will have you removed. Understood? Thank you.
How many other franchise films had you been a part of at the time of this
¿Qué
contract?
otras franquicias ha sido
There was a
ha
third.
participado
There was
en esa
Pirates.
época? ¿Fue otra? ¿La de
There
piratas?
was.
¿Había otra?
Oh, sorry.
Oh, lo siento.
With Warner Brothers,
Con Warner Brothers.
Fantastic Beasts, and
La
Where to
película
Find
de
Them, and then Crimes of
Fantastic
Grindelwald.
Beasts.
And how does the compensation reflected in this contract compare to that, what you receive for the other
¿Cuál es su
franchises that
compensación
you've been a part
respecto
of?
con esta película y con las otras que usted participó?
He just established that he was a member of other franchise films at this point.
Él acaba de establecer que ha sido un miembro de otras películas.
I'll overrule the objection if you can answer.
I believe the compensation, obviously, all the pay and back end and all those things are
Creo que la
negotiated
compensación
by
se ha
agents,
negociado
lawyers.
a través de
and
agentes,
this
abogados.
was comparatively, this was
Comparativamente,
this is my salary on that film,
este es mi salario en esta película.
and other salaries were of a similar
y otros salarios fueron similares.
of a similar status, I suppose.
De un estado
If I could
similar.
direct your attention
Estatus
to the
similar.
12th page of the document.
Yes. Who?
Is this your signature, Mr. Depp?
¿Es esta
Yes,
su
it is.
firma, señor Depp?
You can
Sí,
take
sí
this
es.
down, thank you. Mr. Depp, I recall that you testified that
Señor
you
Depp,
don't
recuerda que
know
usted testificó que
during
no
a given
sabía
period what movies you were
durante qué
working on.
periodo
So my question is, who
usted
would
qué
know
películas
that?
había trabajado. Mi pregunta es, ¿quién sabrá eso?
Well, first and foremost, is my agent,
Principalmente mis agentes
or agents.
o agentes.
I do recall a couple of the other films
Recuerdo algunos de los
that
otras
I made
películas
after.
que hice después.
One was
Una fue,
initially called Richard Says Goodbye.
inicialmente se llamaba
that
Richard
was,
Says Dice Adiós, y la otra fue
They changed the name to The Professor, and
They Changed the Name del
during
Professor.
all of the,
Durante todo
the
esto,
nastiness over the past
de todo lo que estuvo pasando
6 years,
de los últimos 6
that
años.
film went straight to
Eso fue cuando nos fuimos
pay-per-view.
directamente a pay-per-view.
there was
Y fue
another film
otra película
called Minamata that was
llamada
produced.
Minamata, que fue producida.
It was my company,
Mi compañía,
Infinitum
Infinito Isle.
We had developed a film
Tenemos
called
desarrollados
Minamata
varias
about Eugene
películas
Smith.
acerca de
and,
Eugene Smith,
The Minamata,
en de Mirimara,
the mercury poisoning of a very small
el
fishing village
envenenamiento de
in southern Japan.
mercurio.
There was that one, and then
Eso
there was
fue
a film
aquella, y después fue otra película
called
llamada
Waiting for the Barbarians with
La boda de los Barbarians,
Mark Rylance,
Mark
Robert
Rylance.
Pattinson.
con Robert Pattinson.
Those were 3 films that I
Esos fueron las
Done.
3 películas que yo hice.
Mr. Depp, during your cross-examination, Mr.
Señor Depp,
Rottenborn
durante la
showed you a number of
cross-examinación,
text messages between you
El
and
abogado le
Paul
envió
Bettany. Do you remember
una
that?
serie de mensajes de texto entre usted
Could
y
you
otra persona.
please
¿Puede
explain to the
explicar,
jury
por
what your
favor, al
relationship
jurado
with Mr. Bettany is?
cuál es su relación con Mr. Bettany?
Mr. Bettany and I had
El señor Bettany y yo
we'd met
nos conocimos
while I was making a film called The Tourist
cuando
in
estaba haciendo una
Venice,
película llamada
and we were
El Turista en Venecia,
it was an instant connection.
y fue una
He's
conexión instantánea.
born and bred in the UK and has that English sort of dry, kind of obtuse, abstract sense of humor.
Que tiene un sentido
and that was one of the things
abstracto
that
del
we
humor.
connected on. Is taking, even if it was a difficult or
Aún aunque haya sido
unpleasant
una
situation, we would,
situación muy comprometida,
do our best to deal with it
hicimos lo
with
mejor
humor
para poder
as opposed to
resolverlo con humor en lugar de
just a constant complaint or whining or anything of
En
that
lugar de
nature.
estar
We dealt with it with humor,
quejándonos constantemente.
albeit sometimes as these are private texts that
Y como esos son textos privados,
there was a lot of
había muchos
in context.
en
It's
contenido.
important to know
Es
that
importante que saber
none of it was ever
que nada de
intended
eso
to be
fue
real, and the
que fue
language
la
that's
intención de
used,
que sea real
which I
y que el lenguaje que
yes,
usamos
I am ashamed that
Estoy
that has to
avergonzado
be
de que haya sido,
spread on
de que sea regado
the world like
en el mundo como
peanut butter.
peanut butter, como mermelada
I
de cacahuate.
for example, the text
Por ejemplo, el texto
that is about
que se trata
burning Ms. Heard is
sobre quemando el cuerpo de Miss
it's
Heard
directly
Es
from Monty Python
directamente
in the sketch about burning witches.
relacionado
and then
a la quema de
Drowning the
brujas
Witches.
y
This is
ahogar a las brujas.
a film that
Esa es una
we'd all
película
watched when we were
que todos vimos
10.
cuando
and
éramos 10 años.
It's just
Es solo
irreverent and
Es solo
abstract
irrelevante
humor.
y un humor
That's
abstracto.
what we were referring to in this
A eso era
text.
lo que nos referíamos.
The text message that you just referenced, other than Mr. Bettany, who else saw that text message?
El mensaje
At
de
the
texto
time
que ustedes se
that it was
refieren,
No one. Of course
¿alguien
not.
más lo pudo, estuvo relacionado con eso? No, ninguno.
Based on your own observations, how would you describe Mr. Bettany's relationship with Ms. Heard while you and Ms. Heard were
De
together?
acuerdo a su observación, ¿cuál ha sido la relación del
Abominable.
señor Bamy y Amber Heard?
Why was that?
Ms. Heard despised
La señorita
Mr.
Heard
Bettany.
no le gustaba Mr. Bettany
mainly because we had
Principalmente
become such
porque
close friends.
nos convertimos en amigos muy
And for her,
cercanos
he was
y para
a
ella
threat
era una amenaza
and would take me away
y eso
from
podría
her
que yo me
with
alejara de
regard
ella.
to if Paul Bettany was getting the
Si Paul
attention from me.
Bettany recibía más atención de mí,
That was a showstopper. It would cause
eso
all kinds
causaría
of
todo tipo
unpleasantries
de
to the point
incomodidades
where when
al
we were
punto
on
de-
the island
cuando estábamos en la isla
with Mr. Bettany,
con
his
el
wife
señor
and
Bettany,
his
su esposa
4 children.
y sus 4 hijos.
Ms. Heard and Mr. Bettany got
La
into
señorita Heard y Mr.
some
Bettany
debate.
llegaron,
over lunch.
estaban en un acuerdo a
And
la hora del almuerzo. Estaban en desacuerdo a
I
la
just
hora del
remember
almuerzo.
that
Solo recuerdo que
whenever Mr. Bettany tried to make a point,
cuando el señor
she
Bettany
would
estaba tratando de
talk
hacer un
over
punto
him, and
ella
then
hablaba
it
encima
started
de
to
él.
get quite rude.
y se empezó a
she
llegar
got-
un poco, se empezaba a notar un poco
She
tenso.
got mean,
Ella se volvió un
and she
poco
got loud.
inconveniente
And then
y
I believe it
ruidosa.
was his 18-year-old boy who was getting ready to go to a very bright, brilliant kid. He entered the conversation
Él entró a la conversación
because this was something to do with
Porque
what
es-
he'd studied in
porque
school,
tiene
and
que
he knew
ver
quite a
con
lot
algo con
about
lo
it.
que él
He
había
voiced his
estudiado.
opinion.
y él
And,
demostró su opinión.
Ms. Heard demeaned
La
that young man
señorita Heard
to the point of where
se molestó
he burst into
al punto en que
tears and
él se
walked
puso a
away.
llorar y se retiró.
And it was at that point
Y fue en ese momento
that I had
en
spoken
que,
to Ms. Heard and said
en que yo hablé con la
that's
señorita
just
Heard y
unacceptable.
le dije que eso era
That behavior is
inaceptable
unacceptable. You have no right
y no tienes derecho
to demean that boy. You cannot always be right. You
Y
should
que no
drive him
siempre
wrong
vas a-
sometime
y que no
because you
siempre estás de
might learn
acuerdo.
something.
Nunca, no siempre estás en lo correcto.
And then I asked her
Y le pregunté
to, I thought it was best that she
que sería
leave
lo mejor que si se fuera
the island.
de la isla.
Could we please pull up Defendant's Exhibit 245?
Podemos
Mr.
poner
Depp, I
la
believe this is
exhibición
another text message with
245 que
Mr.
creo que
Bettany
aparece
that you
ese
were shown on
otro
your
mensaje del
cross-examination.
señor Bettany.
And directing your attention to the text message at the top of the page from May 30th, 2014. Do you recognize this text message you sent to Paul Bettany?
Dirijan
Yes,
su atención
I
al
do.
texto.
And could you please describe to the jury what you are conveying to Mr. Bettany in this message?
Por favor, díganle al jurado qué es lo que usted trataba de decirle
This again
al
this
señor
is
Bettany en sus mensajes.
I suppose an example of
Este es un
the way
ejemplo
that I
de la manera
write
en que yo escribí
and express myself.
y la manera en que
That
me
is to say,
expresé.
you stretch the you stretch your situation
donde estiras tu
out
situación afuera hacia
to give him the understanding
para
that
darle la
you're drowning,
intención de que te estás
essentially.
ahogando
So everything
esencialmente.
that I say here
Y todo lo
is,
que dije aquí
in fact,
es de
an
hecho
impossibility
una
for the human
imposibilidad
body.
para el cuerpo humano.
I would have been, well, I would have certainly at least
Siento que
had to be rushed to the hospital for a stomach pump.
siento que a lo mejor me pudieran llevado al
There's a
hospital.
line here
Hay una línea aquí
that, if you don't mind, I say that
que si no me
when I
acuerdo, si
say
no,
I'm
si me
done,
permiten decirlo,
I am admittedly too
estoy
fucked,
acabado,
fucked in the head to spray my rage at the one I love, for little reason as well. I'm too old to be that guy, but pills are fine. The pills that were referenced were the pills that I that I was coming off of, and they were the only thing that could give me some semblance of the same numbing effect that I searched for as a child with my mother. And saying that I was too messed up in the head was, it's kind of like if you've been told since you were a child that everything you do is wrong, and that
es como si dijeran que cuando eras chico todo lo que has hecho
I
está
shouldn't
mal,
have even been alive, or
o que no
whatever,
debes estar vivo,
joyous little
cualquiera.
treats that my then very sick, very ill mother
O lo que decía mi madre que estaba muy
brought to me.
enferma y lo que me mencionó.
Ms. Heard was well aware of my past, my childhood,
A la señora
therefore
Wells sabía cómo era mi
very
pasado y
adept
mi
at
juventud.
knowing exactly which buttons to push.
Sabía exactamente qué botones
So
apretar.
at
para
this
que
point, I mean,
En este
I
momento
felt like,
siento que
well, I was that little boy again in my
era
head.
ese niño pequeño en mi
I guess
cabeza.
I
Y creo que
am incapable of doing
creo que
anything
soy
right. I
incapaz
guess I will
de
never
hacer, soy
be
incapaz de hacer algo
happy. I
correcto.
guess that this
Creo
is
que esto
who I am.
es
I can't get along with this person.
No me puedo llevar con
but
esta
it was,
persona, pero
it's
fue
confusion,
una confusión.
It's nothing that you can,
No es nada que,
it's nothing that anyone could sustain
no es
for any
nada
length
que
of
alguien
time.
pueda
It's
contener.
nothing that anyone should have to
No es algo
sustain
que
for any
nadie más
length of
pueda
time when you're
mantener.
being demeaned, berated, judged, and treated like a lesser
Y tratarlo como una cosa menor,
animal,
como un animal inferior.
treated as if
Tratado como si fuera
I'm only surrounded by yes men, and that I'm a
que
bad father, and
que a mi
that
alrededor hay gente que
it
solamente
was
dice así.
these
Estaba-
things were endless.
Esas cosas eran
Were endless, and
infinitas, no se terminaban.
there was no call for them. It's hard to understand why someone that is supposed to love you could be that cruel. And there's also times where you just say, okay, I'm
Hay momentos en
going
que
to
solo
try
decía voy a
to
tratar de
not have I won't fall for the argument. I
que no
won't
voy a
participate
caer en
in
esa
the argument.
discusión
Because I knew where it would go, into
porque
her
sabía dónde íbamos a caer
circular pattern of
en este
psychological abuse.
en este abuso
Mr. Depp,
psicológico.
what do you mean when you use the term blackout in this text message?
¿Qué significa? ¿Qué es lo que quiere decir cuando se dice el término
blackout.
de blackout en este mensaje de texto?
Yes, because I'm talking about 1,000 Red Bulls and vodkas.
Sí, porque estoy
1,000
hablando
of them.
acerca de 1000 Red
2
Bulls y
bottles of
vodkas,
champagne,
dos botellas de champagne,
no foudre days, half a bottle of whiskey. Those things, had that been all absolutely true,
esas cosas han sido
would have
absolutamente
not only caused the
verdades,
blackout, but it would have
que
caused
eso causa el blackout,
a severe alcohol poisoning,
un
overdose.
envenenamiento de alcohol severo.
I would have had to have gone immediately. If that were true,
Si eso
I
hubiera
would have
sido
had to
verdad,
have been taken to a hospital.
yo
or
creo que me
just
deberían haber
die.
llevado al hospital o ser muerto.
So, no.
No.
Blackout is when someone
Blackout es cuando alguien
gets so drunk
se pone
on
bien tomado
alcohol,
con
essentially,
alcohol, esencialmente.
on alcohol. But the pills that I was,
Pero las pastillas que
that I had my
que tenía,
addiction,
que estaba
that I
adicto
was addicted to, the roxycodone, which are very, very
al
powerful
roxicodón, que
opiates.
son unos opios muy poderosos.
Two of those
Dos de ellos
would knock me
me
out.
podrían
That
noquear.
is to say, so there's blackout, which is, you can be, a
Tú
person can
puedes
be
estar,
wide
una
awake
persona puede estar despierta
and wreaking havoc, or having a giggle
o
in a blackout and never
a tener
remember.
un blackout y no recordar.
When you are,
Tú estás.
when you've taken the prescription medication,
Cuando has tomado esas medicinas,
it knocks you out. You
te
are certainly
descontrolan
not,
y ciertamente
well, you're not in any condition to
no estás en
swing
condición
at anyone.
de persuadir a nadie.
You are out. You go on what's called the nod, and then it takes you away into sleep. It's just
Y
very
estás
deep
descontrolado
sleep.
y te puede tomar en una
And, I found that much more
forma de sueño muy profunda.
accepting than having to hear constant badgering and insults.
Para no tener que estar escuchando tantos
Mr.
insultos.
Depp, I'd like to show you Defendant's Exhibit 153, which I believe Mr. Rottenborn also showed you last week.
Yes.
Do you remember seeing this during Mr. Rottenborn's examination of you last week?
Yeah. Yes, I do.
Okay. Now, I'd like to show you the full text exchange, which is in Plaintiff's Exhibit 120. And since there's been a number of text messages drawn from this document, this would be Plaintiff's Exhibit 120C.
Which page would that be, or underscore?
Les recordamos que estamos
This would
transmitiendo en
be
vivo el
4
día
and
número 8
5,
del
John.
trial de difamación del caso de Johnny Depp y Amber Heard. En vivo estamos recibiendo la señal en vivo desde la Corte de Virginia.
Mr. Depp, do you
Aquí en
recognize
el
these
chat nos
text
pueden
messages?
comentar de dónde
Yes,
nos
I do.
visitan, de dónde nos ven,
Your Honor, I'd
si les
move,
parece algo, si ustedes
Plaintiff's
creen que Johnny
120C
Depp ha
into
sido
evidence
culpable o no.
and ask that it be published
En
to the jury.
este trial que vamos en el día número 8, donde se han dado a conocer varios textos y varias
Mr. Depp,
formas
who
en
are
que
you
él pensaba
communicating with in these
y estas
text
situaciones.
messages?
En el
In
chat nos
fact,
pueden
though it
comentar de
says
dónde nos
Marino,
visitan, de dónde nos
I
ven.
was,
Será
these
interesante
are
saber
texts between
de
my
dónde nos visitan en este momento y qué les parece esta
civic
transmisión que
Vanessa,
estamos logrando
apparently
conseguir
the mother of my
para
children.
poder transmitirla aquí con ustedes.
This is
Aquí están hablando sobre unos textos,
again,
una comunicación que tuvo
abstract
al señor Johnny
humor,
Depp
con
alguien cercano.
back and forth to one another.
Y están hablando exactamente
This was
lo
all,
relacionado a los
yeah,
textos.
it was a joke. It certainly wasn't about Miss Heard. We didn't speak of her much together.
Do you recall what you were talking about?
I don't recall who it was. I don't recall who it was, but it was someone who had for some reason, I think it was, possibility is that 2013. It might have been, we had a nanny at one point, who we, in fact, we had, we found her, she was caught stealing, even from my, at the time, my, maybe 10, 11-year-old boy, Jack, who was bright enough, because he knew it, he was bright enough, he had a $5 bill that he wadded up and put on his desk in his bedroom, and when he came home from school...
Your Honor, I'm just going to object on relevance. The question was, who was this about?
Yeah, we can move on.
Okay.
Okay.
Mr. Depp, I'd also like to show you Defendant's Exhibit 143, which I believe Mr. Rottenborn also showed you last week. Do you remember seeing this email exchange? You could scroll down as well, please. Thank you.
Aquí está mostrando una comunicación de correo electrónico
Oh, yes.
donde le preguntan al señor Dom si usted recuerda esta comunicación que
Who are you
tuvo
exchanging
a
these
través de
emails
correo
with?
electrónico. Le preguntan a quién le envió estos
Stephen
correos
Deuters,
electrónicos.
who was at the time was
Y
my assistant.
Johnny Depp dice que fue para Steven
And
Deuters.
What are you and Mr. Deuters discussing here?
¿Qué es lo que usted y el señor Deuters estaban discutiendo?
Gobbledygook, essentially. It was
Esencialmente
as I
solo
remember, it was
estábamos...
a day of work, and
Recuerdo que era un día de trabajo.
there were times when I would send a text.
Había momentos en que yo enviaba un mensaje de texto al señor
This is
Deuters.
the worrisome type. I would send him a text.
Le mandaba mensajes.
Jest, of course, and to get a rise out of him, to get some reaction out of him.
Para
So,
obtener una reacción acerca de él.
You know, I would tell him things like,
Le decía cosas
I woke
como,
up and I'm bleeding profusely from the inside of my ear. Is that normal? You know,
le mandaba
things
textos
like that.
diciéndole,
So this
estoy sangrando profundamente
exactly
de
the
mi
same kind of
oído,
thing.
eso es normal.
We were even referencing The Hangover, the film The Hangover, in part of this, about the Mike Tyson and sort of bizarre circus that I was telling him that I had in my room, and that there was blood everywhere. It was a joke to just sort of
Era una broma de que yo
throw
tenía en
him
mi
off,
cuarto,
worry him, and
todo estaba,
ultimately it was a joke, and we were
últimamente
laughing about it.
era una broma y estamos
Mr. Depp, what
riéndonos
if any
acerca de eso.
portion of this email exchange is literally true?
¿Qué porción de este correo electrónico es verdad?
We're all set to leave here at approximately 1:30 p.m. Hope you rested well.
Estamos a punto de irnos a las 3 de la tarde. Espero que todos descansen bien.
Mr. Depp, I'd like to talk to you about some text
Señor,
messages that
quiero
Mr.
hablar
Rottenborn
sobre
showed you,
los
where you
textos
refer
mensajes donde usted
to
se
the
refiere
monster,
a
and this is
el
in the
monstruo.
context of in
Y ese es en el
conversations
contexto de
that
la
don't include Mr.
conversación.
Do you remember seeing some of those communications?
¿Usted recuerda haber visto esas
First, I'd
comunicaciones?
like to show you Defendant's Exhibit 427, please, which is a text message from you to Jerry Judge. How are you using the term monster in this context when you're communicating with Mr. Judge?
The monster could essentially, the monster could, it could be two separate things. The monster in her eyes was my,
Objection as to what the monster was in Ms. Heard's eyes, Your Honor.
All right. I'll just state as to her eyes if you want to
Okay.
rephrase.
the monster was defined.
El monstruo fue definido como la señorita Heard.
this out of control
Same objection,
thing.
Your Honor. What Ms. Heard's view of the monster was is not for this witness to say.
Mr. Depp, how do you know how Ms. Heard defined the word monster?
She
Señor
said
D, ¿cómo
words
piensa
in-
que la señorita Heard define la
And
palabra
what words
monstruo?
did she say
¿Y qué fue
with
lo que ella
respect to
dijo
the term monster?
respecto al término monstruo?
It was her go-to phrase,
Fue su palabra preferida,
and
su frase preferida.
it was the go-to phrase for me being, again, you know, as has been embellished and elaborated, the drug use or the drink or whatever. But the monster was, for me,
El monstruo fue para mí,
and again, you start to
y nuevamente empiezas a
think about these things,
pensar en esas
and put
cosas
in your own head what the real context is. The
y empiezas
monster
a poner
was
tu
sobriety.
cabeza sobre
The monster was
de qué se trata ese contexto. El monstruo fue la sobriedad,
trying to be sober because I
tratando de
was
estar sobrio,
plagued by these requests to stop drinking.
sobre todas esas
the monster
peticiones para
could
que yo
also
dejara de estar
be,
tomando.
If a conversation,
Si en una
something
conversación,
starts as a conversation,
si algo empieza en una
which
conversación,
would quickly ramp up to
rápidamente
quite an antagonizing argument.
se iba en una discusión negativa.
If I responded
Si yo respondía,
to her,
si
if
yo
I
le
took
respondía a
part
ella,
in the
si
verbal
era parte
back
de
and
esta
forth where
comunicación
people
verbal
do
de ida,
in life end up saying obscenities, screaming obscenities at one
terminaba
another,
diciendo
or calling
algunas
them names,
groserías
or
y nos decíamos cosas.
when it gets to that point,
Cuando llega a ese punto,
I mean, the monster was just for me was just
para mí el
the
monstruo
guy
fue
who actually
el tipo que
was dumb enough
actualmente era lo suficientemente tonto
to continue to take
para
part in
continuar
arguments
ser siendo
that
parte
would
de esta
ultimately
discusión,
get nowhere.
en esta discusión que últimamente no llegaría a ningún lado.
So that is one of the reasons why
Eso fue una de las
I would
razones
try to get
por
away
las cuales
from
yo,
Ms. Heard,
trataba yo
not
de separarme de Miss Heard,
participate
no participar
in her debates and her
en sus
the
discusiones
knowledge that she wanted to express to me
y
and
las cosas que ella quería discutir conmigo.
circular and painful insults that were
En esos
constant. It was rapid
insultos
fire.
constantes.
So I stopped participating in those.
So,
I
dejé de
tried to
participar
walk away.
para tratar, y
I tried
trataba
to
yo
go
de
to another room,
retirarme o irme a otro
to the point of
cuarto,
locking myself in rooms
todo
that
el
she just
punto de encerrarme en un
pound on the door
cuarto
and scream.
donde ella tocaba la puerta y seguía gritando.
That was clearly a mistake. I should
Eso
have never
fue un error que no debería
fallen for that,
haber
taken the
caído
bait
por eso
to-
o haber sido
to
parte de,
allow myself
para permitirme que
into
yo estuviera siendo
a
partícipe
conversation which led to an argument, which led to
de que una
physical violence.
conversación fuera,
It
se iba a una
was
discusión
not
y
going to
luego
be good, so
violencia
I would,
física,
I would just walk away, which
y solo me
drove
retiraba.
her
Y eso
through the roof.
la hacía que se volviera
So, Mr. Depp,
un
why would
poquito
you use the term
loca.
monster when communicating with people other than Ms. Heard?
Well, because I heard it all the time. I mean, it was, as I said, that was her go-to. The monster's here, the monster's back, monster. So I would refer to the monster again in terms of with Elton or with friends Patti Smith. The monster was like with Elton. It was just the monster was I let the monster creep back in or something. That is sobriety. That's what I'm telling him is I have failed, and I've had a drink or I've been drinking, but But my drinking, again, was not to excess. I would never went into blackouts or anything of that nature. I was disappointed in myself for not staying there. Though when you are constantly in a position to be harassed by your beloved other, what else could I do? I wanted to be numb. I didn't want to hear that.
¿Qué más
I
puedo
didn't want to
hacer?
feel
No quería
especially
sentir nada especialmente
from one who had professed
con
such love
alguien
from
que había
what gave me
profesado amor acerca
age.
conmigo, hacia mí.
Your Honor, I'm about to switch subjects, so if this would be a good time for the lunch break.
We started a little later, so I don't mind going a little further.
Okay.
If you want to do that, go ahead.
Al parecer quieren tomar un receso.
Mr. Depp,
Dice
I'd
la
like
juez
to
que
show
pueden
you
continuar.
Defendant's Exhibit 161. I believe
Quieren
Mr.
presentar
Rottenborn showed you
la
this last week
exhibición
and again today.
165.
Yes.
Les recordamos que estamos en vivo en la
Messages
transmisión del
as
trial de
between
difamación del caso de Johnny Depp.
Why are you informing Ms. Heard that there's a book called Disco Bloodbath?
Al
When I
parecer,
texted
le
her,
pregunta
2:30 in the afternoon, I was in a
un
bookstore.
texto que le mandó Amber Heard donde dice, deberías saber que existe un libro llamado Disco Bloodbath.
Bookstore that had a lot of first editions and things like that, which was sort of a passion. And I saw a book called Disco Bloodbath. And
Vi un libro llamado Disco Bloodbath.
I thought it was a funny.
Pensé que era algo divertido, un título divertido.
I can't say that I was necessarily referencing anything other than.
No puedo decir que era necesariamente que refería a lo que habíamos pasado.
It sounded like a sort of a bad slasher movie to me. So I
Parecía que era un backslash, una película.
just thought you should know that there exists a book titled Disco.
Creo que debería saber que
That's
existe
all.
un libro titulado Disco Bloodbath.
And she
Y ella
said, "We need
dijo,
that book."
necesitamos ese libro.
And then she asked me,
Y ella me
about
dijo,
last Friday night,
eso se trata de lo que pasó el viernes pasado, de casualidad.
My answer
Mi
to her,
respuesta hacia ella
how
fue,
can you make me smile about such a
¿cómo
hideous
puedes
moment?
sonreír acerca de ese
The
momento?
fact is, this is a light-hearted exchange.
De hecho, esta es una broma bastante ligera,
And saying, "We need that book." Then she
donde
makes
estoy
reference
diciendo,
to last
necesitamos ese
Friday
libro. Y
night.
ella me pregunta si esto fue acerca de lo que pasó el viernes
I
pasado.
don't recall
No
what
recuerdo
last Friday night was,
qué fue lo que
whatever
pasó
story it was.
la noche del viernes pasado.
How can you make me smile about such a hideous moment?
¿Cómo puedes hacer sonreír acerca de este momento?
A hideous moment could have been some grotesque thing that we saw on
Un momento
television.
puede haber sido un momento grotesco que vimos en televisión
Anything, I don't
o algo.
recall now, but
No recuerdo ahora.
all I was saying is
Todo lo que
it
habíamos
says at the end of the
mencionado, y es lo que
that's
dice al
all.
final de nuestro
Disco
texto,
Bloodbath.
que solo fue un disco Bloodbath.
So this was not a, we were not.
Esto no fue no estábamos discutiendo en este intercambio de mensajes.
Mr. Depp, I'd like to show you Defendant's Exhibit 375. which is
Señor,
another
quiero
document
mostrar la
from
exhibición
Jury
395.
Yes.
Claro.
Could you please remind the jury what's reflected in this photograph?
¿Puede, por favor, recordarles al jurado qué es lo que está reflexionando en esta foto?
This is from Australia.
Esto es desde Australia.
On March 8th, I believe it was.
Creo que fue el 8 de marzo.
After my finger had been,
Donde después de que mi dedo,
the tip of my finger had been
la punta de mi dedo,
taken off,
se había desprendido,
I began
empecé
I was in such shock, I just started writing on the mirror.
Estaba en shock que empecé a escribir en espejos y en paredes.
Basically, what these were for me to make
Básicamente lo que fue de mí para ella fueron recordatorios de que
moments
de momentos
past
en
where
nuestro pasado donde
I had caught her,
la había encontrado,
where it was revealed to me
donde
even by
me di
her
cuenta
that
que ella
she had been caught in lies. That
ella
she had
había
told.
estado, la habían encontrado diciendo mentiras.
That's what these are in reference to.
Eso es lo que se refiere acerca.
The lipstick
El
that says
lápiz labial rojo
call Carly Simon.
que dice
Call Carly
llama a
Simon.
Carly Simon.
She said it better, babe.
Ella lo dijo mejor, babe.
In reference to you're so vain, I am imagining.
En referencia.
But that's not. I didn't. The Carly Simon message is not mine.
El mensaje de
it's
Carly
hers.
Simon no es mío, es de ella.
So let's just break this down a little bit. Who wrote
So
the text
vamos a
that was
entender
flashed
esto.
on the
¿Quién
mirror?
escribió
That
este
would be me.
texto?
And
¿Quién
what does
escribió
that
esto?
say?
Sí, yo fui.
She loves.
Ella,
I don't know, like naked.
she loves
Hollywood
naked.
or something. An artist
Un artista.
of, I don't know what the rest says, but
No sé lo que dice lo demás.
what that is.
Lo que eso es.
Ms. Heard had come to me.
La señorita Heard vino a decirme
And she was seriously,
que ella estaba seriamente,
seemed to be seriously concerned about
parecía
how
que
she
estaba
was
muy
being
preocupada cómo estaba,
portrayed in
cómo la habían,
Hollywood.
cómo la
She
habían,
was concerned that
era su imagen en Hollywood,
because she
y
had
estaba
done
preocupada
films
de
where
que
there
había
was,
hecho películas cuando,
kind of arbitrary nudity and things of
donde
that
había
nature.
nudismo en
She
sus
had
papeles,
voiced to me that she did not want to be.
y ella me había comentado que no quería ser,
She didn't want to be looked
que
upon
no
that
quería
way
que la vieran
in
de
the
esa manera
industry.
en la
She wanted
industria.
to be able to escape
Quería escapar en esa
chains
industria
of
y cambiar,
being objectified
que la forma ser objetiva
the Hollywood system, which is a
en el
difficult
sistema de
thing
Hollywood,
for anyone,
que es
certainly,
algo muy difícil
unfortunately.
para cualquiera.
But she asked me how
Y ella me preguntó cómo podría
how can I avoid being stereotyped as
evitar este
as the
estereotipo
beautiful blonde who
como la
gets
güera
her breasts
preciosa
out or goes naked and
y que
has
se desnuda
struck people in movies.
en,
And I gave her
en
my
este personaje en las películas, y que le dije
advice on
mi
it,
recomendación
on how to avoid it,
y cómo evitar
which I
eso,
thought was
por lo que
pretty
pienso
accurate,
que era
and,
bastante exacto.
Her ambition was
Y sus ambiciones
stronger
fueron más fuertes
than what she received from my advice.
que lo que recibió de mi recomendación,
What it was.
que básicamente fue lo que fue.
My advice
Mi recomendación
that I
fue
thought long and hard about because I
y que
prepared
pensara
for her, and I
largo
did
y
I could have gone on, I could have been just a guy who was on a TV series for a couple of years, and then, what was going to be left of me would be on lunchboxes and thermoses and posters and teen idol things, and I've fought that tooth and nail.
¿Quiere más alto el volumen mío o en la voz de
That's
él?
not who I was. So I had experienced something similar.
¿Lo que dice el señor Depp o lo que digo yo? Saludos a
Looked
Dama.
upon as something that you're not. And so I
Dama
fought against it in the very
nos escucha de
beginning, and,
Ecuador. El mío, ok.
it worked out for me.
Vamos a ver.
For a while there, and I was giving her basically the same advice.
Vamos a ver si me escuchan mejor ahora.
Now, Mr. Depp, you said
A ver si me puedes decir, Dama, si se escucha mejor.
in red here, that's Carly Simon said it.
¿Me oyes mejor o lo subimos más alto?
Yes, no, that's not mine.
A ver si nos puedes mencionar en el chat si lo ponemos más alto. Nos está escuchando Dama de Ecuador.
There are,
¿Ahí se oye mejor? Ok, perfecto. Entonces,
well, first it doesn't. It looks like it's trying
saludos a Mar Azul que nos escucha. ¿De dónde nos escucha Mar Azul? Les recordamos que estamos transmitiendo en vivo. Si subo el volumen del juicio, el problema es que como estoy traduciendo al mismo tiempo, se vuelve a escuchar mi voz. Entonces tengo que tenerlo un poquito bajo el del juicio para poder escuchar y volver a decir lo que el señor me está diciendo. Por eso bajé, el volumen del juicio está en inglés. Entonces estoy tratando de escucharlo para poder traducirles en lo que yo pueda lo que están mencionando. Y para los que nos escuchan por primera vez, esa es una transmisión en vivo del día 8 del trial de difamación del caso de Johnny Depp y Amber Heard. Es una traducción que tenemos aquí. Bueno, ya me están callando aquí el señor Luis. Continuamos.
Mr. Depp, I'd like to show you one of the text messages that Mr. Rottenborn showed you concerning the
Señor Depp, queremos mostrarles estos mensajes de textos donde ambos están comentando de
This is a text message
este es un mensaje de texto de usted.
Mr. Rottenborn showed you on cross-examination. Do you remember that?
Es un mensaje de texto que le mostraron a ambos.
Why are you apologizing to Dr. Kipper in this message?
¿Por qué se está disculpando con el doctor David Kimper en este mensaje de texto? En el texto dice mis disculpas más sinceras a usted, doctor. Entiendo que esa decisión ya me la quitaron.
I believe that
Creo que
at that point,
en ese momento, en mi
brain and in my life and in my
en mi vida y en mi corazón estaba
completely and utterly frustrated
completamente frustrado de cómo estaba
living.
o cómo estaba viviendo mi vida
I had some disagreements
y tenía muchos desacuerdos
with Dr. Kipper.
con el doctor Keeper
I was
y estaba
apologizing to
disculpándome con él por haber
gone against
estado en contra de sus deseos
his
o haber estado en contra de sus recomendaciones.
What do you mean when you said I have chopped off my left middle finger as a reminder?
¿Qué significa cuando usted le dijo que había yo cortado mi dedo mediano?
it's my
Es nuevamente, es mi manera de tratar con esta situación dolorosa. Es mi manera. Cuando tengo una situación dolorosa me voy hacia el humor. Mi dedo derecho le decía que
left finger to remind me never to cut my right finger off.
para recordarme para recordarme de no cortar mi dedo derecho. Y eso es no. O sea,
You say I got my finger
cuando lo dices que tengo mi dedo cortado, no necesariamente quiere decir que tú lo hiciste.
self and
Tú mismo, nuevamente. Soy un guitarrista
since I was 12
y lo he sido desde que tenía 12 y he sido el único.
piece that I
Y he sido la única
at the age of 12
parte que he encontrado de mi vida a mi edad de 19 cuando sabía que
I knew who
que,
escape into
podía escapar hacia la música y aprender música. Y
the last thing
la última
guitar I mean I
cosa, soy un guitarrista
play the guitar with
y aún toco la guitarra. Y aún así es mi primer amor. A excepción de mis hijos.
there's
Ahí no hay razón en el mundo por la cual
we cut my own
por la cual yo me cortaría mi propio dedo para arruinar esta oportunidad hermosa que me dieron desde los años 12 para tocar guitarra. ¿Por qué? ¿Por qué habrías como dice el Señor, sugiere que yo era una persona que estaba haciendo muchos caprichos? ¿Por qué? ¿Por qué no estaría cortándome todos los dedos? No tiene sentido. ¿Por qué arruinaría la única cosa realmente que me hacía feliz, como es la música? Cuando este dedo se me cayó o me lo cortaron, la única cosa que podía pensar en mi vida, en mi mente, era gracias a Dios que no fue la mano izquierda, que es donde estoy tocando los acordes, en tu mano izquierda. No soy un artista que tiene solo 2 dedos para tocar. Si hubiera yo perdido alguno de los dedos en mi mano izquierda, no hubiera sido capaz de poder seguir tocando guitarra nuevamente. Eso no es el caso. Aunque haya yo dicho que, me corté mi dedo, es como decir, me choqué contra una navaja o algo así. No estoy admitiendo, yo creo que si hubiera admitido algo de que realmente me corté el dedo, este texto sería como fue. Y vendría con una explicación muy larga en por qué había llegado a este punto. Pero no puedo tomar responsabilidad de lo que ahora llamo el pequeño Richard en uno de mis dedos. Señor Depp, en el momento que usted mandó este texto, ¿usted le ha dicho qué fue lo que realmente pasó en su dedo derecho? Oh, sí. ¿Y qué fue lo que le dijo? ¿Por qué le dijo eso? Él se dio cuenta. Él se dio cuenta de lo que pasó. Jerry se había dado cuenta, todo el mundo se había dado cuenta. Y por supuesto, cuando fui al doctor, en el cuarto de emergencia les mentí porque no sabía, no quería que fuera inteligente al haber causado, para haber implicado a la señorita Heard, y que iban a ocurrir millones de historias en la prensa de cómo ella había tirado una botella de vodka y que me lastimó el dedo. Y cómo los dedos los huesos de la punta de mi dedo fueron dañados. Que fue todo cortado. Bueno, ustedes han visto las fotos. Que sí fue bastante feo. No quería ponerla en esa situación. No quería ponernos ninguno de los dos en esa situación. O la película en esa situación. Es por eso que fue precavido cuando el segundo doctor, quien actualmente me dijo lo que... No he terminado mi frase, no sé cómo sabes eso. Fue el doctor de emergencia. El primero, al siguiente día, fui a ver a un especialista de las manos, eso fue en Australia, y él reconoció que mi pretexto de mi dedo haber sido, de que mi dedo se dañó, es una objeción sobre su dedo. El juez sostiene la objeción.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we'll go ahead and take our hour lunch recess. Again, do not do any outside
Ok,
discussions and don't talk
al
about
parecer va a haber un break para el lonche, para la hora de ir a almorzar.
Please, court is in session.
Va a haber una suspensión, un receso de 1 hora. Vamos a continuar con la transmisión en 1 hora. Voy a terminar esa transmisión. Para todos los que nos están escuchando, esa es la transmisión en vivo del día número 8 del trial de difamación del caso de Johnny Depp y Amber Heard. Tenemos unas personas aquí que nos están visitando. Se nos pueden conectar en el chat de donde nos ven, de donde nos saludan. Si rápidamente tenemos ahí a varias personas que se conectaron en los últimos minutos. Tenemos a alguien que se llama Dama de Ecuador, Marazul, y tenemos a Albert Noguera, que también nos estuvo acompañando, y Nodier Herrera, Luis de Jaro. Y si nos pueden comentar en el chat rápidamente de dónde nos ven. Estamos ahorita, el juez está mencionando las reglas del receso. Van a tener un receso de 1 hora. Van a ir a almorzar. Entonces tenemos a alguien que se llama Elena Gutiérrez, que nos acompaña desde Roma. No sabemos si es de Roma, de la colonia Roma, o de la ciudad de Roma. Y tenemos a Nodier. Excelente traducción, 100% gracias. Regreso a una para seguir con el chismecito. Bueno, no sé si la señal me la van a cortar. Estamos recibiendo la señal en vivo. La señal va a seguir. Al parecer no me la han cortado. Entonces, si no me la cortan, estoy recibiendo esta traducción. Si no, esa transmisión. Si no me la cortan, voy a dejar la transmisión aquí en vivo. Seguimos. Saludos para Roma, Italia. Se cortó la transmisión. Bueno, vamos a regresar en 1 hora. En 1 hora regresamos. Ya nos quitaron la señal. Nos quitaron la señal de la corte. Entonces, chicos, regresamos en 1 hora. Para los que nos están viendo, vamos a regresar en 1 hora con la transmisión de el caso del día número 8 de esta sesión de Johnny Depp y Amber Heard, que se han dicho bastantes cosas interesantes. Entonces, aquí los esperamos en 1 hora. Voy a terminar esta transmisión. Son las 10:18 hora de aquí de Los Ángeles. Esta transmisión las tenemos especial. Entonces, los que nos están acompañando, los dejo. Regresamos en 1 hora. Dice Lourdes Elena Gutiérrez, nos vemos en 1 hora. Arrivederci. Ándale, ya estamos hablando italiano aquí. Perfectamente, chicos, nos vemos en 1 hora. Recuerden seguir a The Showbiz Lab en nuestras redes sociales. Estamos transmitiendo en Facebook, estamos transmitiendo en Twitter, estamos transmitiendo en YouTube. Y aquí vamos a seguir tratándoles de traducir en tiempo real lo que sucede en esa transmisión. Ok, chicos, nos vemos en 1 hora. Saludos, bye.